you ever heard of a fundraiser that was so successful the people in charge actually had to tell everyone to stop donating? It sounds crazy, but that's exactly what happened. Today we're jumping into the incredible story of how the ancient Israelites built a sacred home for God, not because they had to, but because of this unbelievable, overwhelming wave of generosity.
Okay, let's just start with a number that is absolutely staggering. 1,000 kilograms. That's more than 2,200 pounds of pure gold. And listen, that was just the gold that people brought for this project. Which, leads to the big question, right? How in the world does a nation of refugees, former slaves wandering in a desert, get their hands on this kind of wealth? And maybe even more important, what would make them give it all away so willingly?
So, here's our game plan. We're going to look at the story behind this crazy offering, meet the super skilled artisans who led the build, walk through how they actually built this sacred space and what went inside, and then we'll connect it all to its lasting legacy.
All right, first up, let's get to the heart of this whole thing, the offering itself. And I really want to stress, this was not some mandatory tax or required donation. No, this was something else entirely.
And this is what's so cool. The original text keeps using phrases like moved in their heart and willing hearts. You can just feel it. This wasn't about obligation. This was a completely voluntary movement, driven by people's own personal desire to be a part of something huge. And the sheer scale of it, wow. So beyond that ton of gold, people brought in over 3,400 kilograms of silver and 2,400 of bronze. And that's not even counting all the beautiful fabrics, expensive oils, and precious gems. The entire community was all in.
This right here is my favorite part of the story. The donations didn't just meet the project's needs, they completely blew past them. The craftsmen came to Moses and were like, "We have way too much stuff." So Moses literally had to send out an official order telling everyone, "Thank you, that's enough, please stop giving." Can you imagine?
So what was going on? Why were they so generous? Well, it seems to be a mix of a few really powerful things. First, they were trying to make up for that whole golden calf disaster. Second, they had just seen Moses come down from the mountain with his face literally glowing with divine light. They were in total awe. And finally, they just had this deep, genuine desire to help build a physical space for God's presence right there with them. Now, all this amazing raw material is one thing, but you need some master artists to actually turn it into something beautiful. So let's look at who was chosen to lead this massive project. It's a story of skill meeting divine inspiration. Two guys were put in charge, Bezalel and Oholiab. Bezalel was the master craftsman, the lead designer, gifted in basically every kind of metalwork, woodwork, and gem cutting you can imagine. And Oholiab, he had this other totally essential skill. He was an amazing teacher. He could take Bezalel's vision and train a whole team of people to help make it happen. And the text says they were filled with the Spirit of God. But what's so great is that it tells us exactly what that means in a practical sense. It wasn't some mysterious feeling. It was divine empowerment that gave them the wisdom to plan everything out, the understanding to solve complex problems, the knowledge of how to work with the materials, and the incredible craftsmanship to pull it all off. Okay, so the materials are there, the leadership is in place, it's time to build. So what did this portable sanctuary, this tabernacle, actually look like? It was actually a brilliant piece of mobile architecture. The frame was made from these heavy acacia wood panels, and they were all locked together with connecting bars to make it super stable. For the roof, they used these tough sea cow hides to protect everything from the desert elements. And then on the inside, a couple of massive, beautifully woven curtains divided the space into two rooms, the holy place and then the even more sacred, most holy place. All right, let's step inside, because the things inside the tabernacle were so much more than just furniture. Every single piece was packed with meaning and had a specific purpose. And we have to start in the most sacred space of all, the most holy place. In there, behind that final curtain, sat the one single most important object in all of Israel, the Ark of the Covenant. So this beautiful golden box held the most important artifacts of their entire relationship with God. Inside, you had the actual stone tablets with the 10 Commandments. You had a jar of that miraculous manna bread to remember how God fed them in the desert. And you had Aaron's staff that had supernaturally sprouted buds as a sign of his authority. But really, the most significant part of the ark was its lid. It was called the atonement cover, or sometimes the mercy seat. It was solid gold,
with two statues of angelic beings, cherubim, facing each other. This exact spot was considered to be the very center of God's presence on earth. So then, if you stepped out into the first room, the holy place, you'd see three main things. There was the table of presence, which held 12 loaves of bread, one for each of the 12 tribes. There was the golden lampstand, a menorah, which was the only source of light in there. And then there was the altar of incense, where incense was burned 24/7, with the smoke symbolizing the people's prayers constantly rising up to God.
Now, everything we've just talked about, the building, the sacrifices, all the rituals, it was so important, but in a way, it was also a giant arrow pointing towards something new. So let's talk about the lasting legacy of the tabernacle. You see, the whole system of animal sacrifice in the tabernacle was designed to deal with sin, but it was always temporary. It had to be repeated, year after year. The New Testament completely reframes this idea. It presents the sacrifice of Jesus as the one perfect and final sacrifice, something done once for everyone for all time.
So here's kind of how that theological shift works. Step 1, the tabernacle rituals deal with sin temporarily. Step 2, Jesus is presented as the perfect final sacrifice. Step 3, because of that, all those old sacrificial practices are no longer needed. And that leads to Step 4, a whole new way for people to receive forgiveness and have a direct relationship with God.
And that really is the biggest takeaway here. The tabernacle was an incredible, specific, physical place where God's presence dwelt. The fundamental shift is from that physical location to a spiritual reality, a personal connection to God that's available to anyone, anytime, anywhere.
And that brings us right back to where we started. We began with this amazing story of a people giving everything with joyful, willing hearts to build a house for God. So the question to leave you with is this: if the ultimate price has already been paid, what does a true, willing offering from the heart look like for us today?